All right, boys and girls, we are going to focus today on learning how to solve a system of equations using a technique called substitution. And it works like this. Let's look at this problem. It says, together, teammates Pedro and Ricky got 2,685 base hits last season. I assume this is baseball. It says Pedro had 285 more hits than Ricky. How many hits did each player have? So what I'm going to show you is how to set up the information that's given and to solve this system of equations using substitution. Here we go. Let's focus on this first sentence. Pedro and Ricky got 2,685 base hits last season. That means using variables. So let's say P for Pedro, easy, plus if you add up Ricky's base hits and Pedro's base hits, they add up to 2,685. There's one equation. Now the other equation is that Pedro had 285 more hits than Ricky. So what that means is Pedro's total of hits is equal to Ricky's number of hits plus it's more than 285. Now this is the tricky part. It's not really that tricky, you just have to pay attention. Since P equals all of this stuff, we are going to take all of this stuff inside the circle and we are going to substitute it in the other equation instead of we're going to take P out of the way and we're going to put R plus 285. So this is what the new equation looks like. We're going to write down this equation, but we're going to use the substituted part, R plus 285. So instead of writing this P down right here, we are going to write down R plus 285. R plus 285. Now keep going, keep reading this equation. We just wrote down P, this is P. Then it says, this equation right here says plus R equals 2,685. So all we did was we took this part and we wrote it down instead of this P, because the second equation tells us that P equals R plus 285. So now we have an equation in only one variable. Can you see what that is? Of course it is R. See, this is the only variable we have in the equation, so now we can add them together. They're like terms. What is R plus R? That is 2R plus 285 equals 2,685. Subtract 285 from both sides. We know how to solve equations because we've already studied this. And we get 2R equals 2,400. Now we're going to divide both sides by 2, and we get, I'm going to continue way over here, R equals 1,200. That means that Ricky got 1,200 base hits. If we then take the second equation, Pedro's number of base hits is going to be Ricky's plus 285. So if we add 285, then we know Pedro got 1,485. So Ricky got 1,200, Pedro got 1,485, and that's actually the answer that goes there. Got it? Good. Okay, here we go. No word problem, it just gives us a system. Here's one equation, and here's the other equation. So we want to, the directions are very simple. We're going to solve the first equation for x. So we're going to take x plus 3y, that's the first equation, equals 0, and we are going to solve that equation for x. This is the variable we're isolating, which means subtract 3y from both sides of the equation. Here's our little fence. Subtract 3y from both sides. Boom. So x equals negative 3y. That's it. That's all it wants us to do. So type in the answer right there. What goes right there? Negative 3. Okay, and so what this is saying in the second part now, down here, since x equals negative 3y, that means in this equation, instead of for x right there, we're going to write down what x equals, which is negative 3y. So this is what the equation looks like. 15y equals negative 5, and normally we would write down, see right here, we would write down negative 5x, but we don't want to use x, we want to use what x equals. X equals negative 3y, so this is negative 5 times negative 3y. So now here's what we're looking at. 15y equals, now let's do this multiplication. What is negative times a negative? Negative 5 times negative 3 is positive 15, and then times y. So we have, if we divide, do you see that this is the exact same quantity as this? That means that it is true. The variables are going to cancel out, but it's a true statement, which means what? There are infinitely many solutions. That's it. All right, word problem. Our favorites. Here we go. On a hot summer's day, 299 people use the public swimming pool. The daily prices are $1.25 for children and $2 for adults. The receipts for admission totaled $473.50. So the question is, how many children and how many adults swam at the public pool that day? Okay, so let's set this up. We're going to have two equations. So one equation is that it involves this number, 299. So that means that the number of adults plus the number of children totaled 299. We're not sure how many adults there were, we're not sure how many children, but we know that all together, everybody who was there were 299 of them. Then we're going to take this information right here and we're going to write the other equation. So we're going to say $1.25 C, that's times the number of children, plus $2 per adult equals the total amount collected that day, which is $473.50. Now, how do we solve this? Well, what we can do is we can take the first equation and we can solve for one of the variables. So let's take A plus C equals 299, and let's subtract A from both sides of the equation. So we get C equals negative A plus 299. Now, let's take that amount, negative A plus 299, and let's substitute it in the other equation for what variable? For C. So take it over here, and right there, we're going to not write C down, we're going to write down negative A plus 299. So here's our new equation. Our new equation is 1.25, not times C, times negative A plus 299 plus 2A, just keep writing it down, equals 473.5. That's a 7. Hang on, I'm going to erase that right there. 473.5. So let's distribute. We get negative 1.25A, and then 1.25 times 299 is a quarter of 299 is 75. I'm going to have to do that on my phone. So that is 373.75 plus 2A equals 473.5. Okay, now I'm going to solve this equation pretty quickly here. That's a 7. Okay, so here are our like terms. Let's go ahead and identify those. Negative 1.25A and 2A. So 2 take away negative 1.25, or 2 take away 1.25 is 0.75 A. And now I'm going to subtract 373. I'm going to subtract this amount from both sides of the equation. So I'm going to subtract 373.75. Okay, so I'm going to take, okay, so that's 99.75 Now all I have to do is divide both sides by 0.75. 0.75. And so A, the number of adults, this variable is what I'm isolating. 7.75's cancel. And so 99.75 divided by 0.75 is 133. So the number of adults at the pool that day is 133. If I want to know the number of children, all I have to do is subtract that number from 299, because the total of adults and children equals 299. And so the number of children is 299 minus 133, which is 166. There you go. Let's keep going. We have time for a few more. This says, Tim incorrectly says that the solution of the system of equations is -5, -4. What is the correct solution? What error might Tim have made? So let's check it out. We have this system, and it looks like we can pretty easily take this second equation and solve for h by adding 5g to each side. So if I do that real quick, I get 15 equals h minus 5g. If I add 5g to both sides, I know that h equals 15 plus 5g. So there, I know that equation. So since h equals 15 plus 5g, I can take 15 plus 5g and put it in the other equation instead of what variable? You got it. Instead of h. So I'm going to take that h right there, and I'm going to substitute 15 plus 5g. So the whole thing will be 5g. That's the beginning of that equation. Minus 2 times. Now not h. We don't want to write h down. We want to write down what h equals. And h equals 15 plus 5g. Now keep reading this equation right here. Equals -10. Now let's solve for g. First of all, we're going to distribute this -2. So we're going to get 5g minus 30 minus 10g equals -10. Now the like terms are 5g and -10g, which combine to -5g. Now if I add 30 to both sides at the same time, then I know that those cancel, and I know -5g is going to equal 30 minus 10, which is 20. Now if I divide both sides by -5, I know the 5's are going to cancel, and g is going to equal -4. Now, that's g. We still have to solve for h. So if we take this first equation again, if we take this equation and substitute the g value of -4 right here, then we can solve for h. So h is going to equal 15 plus 5g, and 5g, g is -4, so 5 times g is -20. -20 plus 15 is -5, so h equals -5. Now, these are our two coordinates. Tim said it was -5, -4, but that's in reverse alphabetical order. That's h, comma, g. That's h, comma, g. We probably want to write it in alphabetical order, which is gh. So we would write down -4, -5. That would go right there. Okay, boys and girls, I'm going to do this problem with you. I already have the answer filled in here, but I want to show you how you get that. You can see that this top equation is already solved for x, which is brilliant because that means we can substitute this part in the other equation for x. So we can take the second equation, this one, and instead of x, we can write down what x equals, which is 7y minus 8. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take this equation, the bottom one, and we're going to write down the new equation with the substitution. So instead of writing down x plus 7y equals 3, we're going to write down, instead of x, we're going to write down 7y minus 8, because see, in the first equation, that's what it says equals x. So that's that part. Then plus 7y equals 3. Okay, like terms are 7y plus 7y, which is 14y. And then if we add 8 to both sides real quick, add 8, 14y is going to equal 11, because the 8's cancel over there. So we got 7y plus 7y is 14y. 8's cancel. If you add 8 to 3, you get 11. Now if we divide both sides by 14, 14's are going to cancel, and y is going to equal 11 over 14. That's one answer. Now, we have to come back up into one of the original equations to solve for what x is. So let's take the first equation, which was x equals 7y minus 8. And this time we know that y equals 11 over 14. That's what we just figured out. Right here, right there, we figured out that y is 11 over 14. So substitute it in the equation. Okay, what's 7? X is going to equal 7 times 11 over 14. Well, 7 goes into 14 twice. So, and that leaves a 1 there. So 1 times 11 is 11 over 2. This is 11 over 2 minus 8. If I write down 8 as a fraction divided by 2, it's 16 over 2. Oops. What did I want to do there? I didn't want to write down equals right there. I wanted to write down subtract. So there we have it. 11 take away 16 is negative 5 over 2. So this is the x value, and the y value already solved for. So negative, that's why you see the answer right here. Negative 5 over 2, comma 11 over 14.